Okay, so here we are.
Hi.
Hi, Johannes. Thank you for inviting us, and I guess we're gonna have a talk, know each other better.
Yeah.
And the funny thing that you can maybe hear behind is the sound of a train, because some weeks ago, actually, we met by chance on a train. It's the first time we actually met and spoke to each other directly. And so we are reproducing the sound of the train and reproducing the first time we met. Thanks to everybody for being here in this warm summer day. And yeah, let's get started. You want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say hi to you. Ciao. As we both said that we're just in the mood of traveling right now, and that's where we got to know each other. I want to reach back to yesterday, where both of us were still traveling. So, me from Styria, and you, where did you come from?
No, I was traveling. I was shooting a video on trains in Vienna. So I was traveling in the city.
Okay. So, but I'm going to set up now a 3D scan. Because I was just coming back from Styria from a research trip where we were 3D scanning refrigeration communities. So let's have this set up and get 3D scanned or refrigerated maybe.
Okay, so what should I do meanwhile you build this up?
Maybe get a coffee.
Ah, yeah. Pablo, can you bring us 2 coffees, please?
And maybe a tea as well?
And a tea.
Yeah.
2 coffees and a tea. And an ashtray. Okay. So, shall I read the...
Yeah, that would
okay.
be lovely.
Meanwhile, Johannes is setting up the 3D printer. Oh, that's the scanner, sorry. That's some fancy stuff. I will read something, a booklet that I printed last year. I often I'm always asked for my practice to talk about my work, and I have some feedback, technical problems.
Is the train sound still on?
Yeah.
Because I think it makes this kind of distortion. Maybe you can turn it off. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's
Thank
better. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying that I'm asked often to talk about my work, and in the last year it got more and more annoying for me to always repeat myself. I cannot listen myself talking about my works so much anymore. So I developed this little booklet which I basically tell a story in a narrative way, a bit like a child fairy tale, and I'm gonna read it through. Meanwhile, Johannes set up the scanner. So the book is called Once, and I will go through the book. These are all experiences that I had during my artistical practice, and I basically synthesized them in one single sentence for Projekt. Maybe at the end, if we want or not, we can talk about some of this if you have any curiosity. Once is the name of the book, and here we go. Once I hanged my mother upside down. Once during winter, we chased the sun around Europe for 10,000 kilometers. Once I hired 2 people to dress up in suits and chase each other through a shopping mall. Once I had my father dress up as my mother. Once we shot each other with 2 full fire extinguishers. This was actually with Pablo. Once we swapped the welcome sign of 2 countries in the border zone. Once we installed a real grass football field inside the Italian embassy.
I really like this one.
Also with Pablo. Once we dressed up as Italian carabinieri and traveled through Northern Europe. Once we produced grenades with granite. Once I rented a bus taking all my friends to see my exhibition in another city. Once I transformed myself to resemble Jesus of Nazareth. Once I stage dived into the crowd of visitors at my exhibition. Once I asked the director of the exhibition to call up random people on the phone book and invite them to the show. Once I made a book that was called Once.
Oh, thank you.
Grazie, Bob. Once I asked the audience of my performance to sit on a tribune and organize themselves according to the amount of money they carried on them, from the lowest to the highest. Once we made a performance that made me cry. Once I asked 2 bodyguards to mutually protect each other. Once I tried to put a tiger inside a museum. Once we recorded a house catch on fire and showed the footage in a gallery vis-a-vis the day after. Once I put a 7,000 watt sky beam pointing to the sky on the rooftop of a museum. Once I made the curator read Das Kapital by Marx every morning at the exhibition space. Once I made a poster which read, you can buy this poster. Once I activated a hand siren that could be heard throughout the entire city of my hometown. Once I instructed friends of the owner of a flat to rearrange their entire living room during their absence. Once I drew all over a staircase of a skyscraper in Bucharest. Ciao bella. Once I designed a Gundam prosthesis for my brother's arm and showed it in the Museum of Technology. Once I drew in complete darkness for a whole afternoon. Once I only drew with my non-dominant hand for the entire week. Once I drew hundreds of thousands of people at once. Once we traveled to London to perform Austropop song in the streets. Once the Italian 'ndrangheta approached us in Duisburg as we were dressed up as Italian carabinieri. Once we slept in a museum with tents and sleeping bags. Once I made a contract with a stranger to send each other Christmas card each year forever. Once I hugged a security guard. Once I rebuilt a scaled-down version of the institution inside the institution. Once I left markers for people to use inside the institution toilet for people to use. Once I secretly recorded an argument between me and the curator and broadcast it in the show. Once I organized a 10 meters marathon. Once we won the Golden Lion. Once I transformed a big city crane into a compass. Once we went around the north of Italy dressed up as astronauts. Once we pointed a 7,000 watt sky beam to the city skyscrapers, also with Pablo. Once we formed an ultimate frisbee team and tried to compete against the local professional, also with Pablo. We did a lot of work together, man. Once I printed 10,000 fake CV or curriculum vitae. Once I gathered 115 Italians in Vienna and made them socialize on a square podium. Once I tried to organize a city riot with Abbe Piaggio. Once I made two cars chase each other at super slow speed in a roundabout. Once I made all my friends take picture of themselves wearing a balaclava mask. Once I hired two people to keep a monument illuminated with hand torches. Once I paid 3 influential people in the art scene to speak highly of my show throughout its entire duration. Once I left 6 electrical heaters running on full power in an exhibition space in summer. Once, while I dressed up as an Italian carabinieri, we ended up in jail in Germany. Once I rebuilt a telephone with only one button written "Mom," that's the work I was talking about. By pressing it, the visitor of the show could call her.
We were talking earlier about your mom, right?
Yeah, this is one of the works. Yes.
What's her name?
Silvana.
Silvana.
She speaks 7 languages, so I made this work in 7 different countries. In Russia, and the people would call, and the work is called, it's a self-portrait of myself with a black telephone, that's the title. And basically, I grew up with my father, so my mother would always answer the phone and always talk about me with information she had about me. So it's a self-portrait made by a mother that doesn't know you totally. So I forced her to talk about me in a way for the work.
Can you pass me the tea?
Yes.
And I was just thinking, like all the people freezing out here, how many people could fit in here?
Yeah, that would actually be cool. I think that's gonna be the final picture. We ask everybody to come in the warm. It's so warm here.
It's warm here, even with the tea. Thanks, Pablo.
So it's almost finished.
I think also the scan is almost finished. 63%.
Okay.
And thanks to the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna for buying this thing.
They give it to me. That's cool. Shall I finish? Or?
No, go for it.
Okay. Once in Krzyzewski, I asked young kids to imagine and draw a museum. I then chose one of the drawing and build a scaled-down version of in the central square. Once I proposed a form of protest during a TV art context against the rules of the show. The winner should divide the prize between all participants. They all refused, and then I won. Once I designed a swimming pool to be installed in the middle of the ocean. Once on a square where buses from Eastern Europe brought illegal midweek workers, I covered all commercial billboards with the sentence, "Please come back to visit us." Thank you, that's a bit of boost. Thank you. Once a guy applauded us meanwhile we were making a speech. Once I installed a 2-meter neon tube at the coast to just oppose the horizon. Once every night after closing hours at the Venice Biennale Arsenale, I sang the song lowly into the public announcement system to be heard in the entire area. Once I installed 2 surveillance cameras in the Museum Mambo in Bologna and in the Museum Mambo in Bogota. For 4 months, they monitor each other in real time. 1, 2, 3.
You switch it off maybe?
I switch it off. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Once I installed 2 surveillance cameras in the Museum Mambo in Bologna and in the Museum Mambo in Bogota. For 4 months, they monitored each other in real time. Once we answered all the emails sent from the museum with postcards. Once we allowed people to smoke inside the museum. Once I made a book with white pages for last minute ideas. I think we're done almost. Once I invited some people who usually aren't interested in art to come and see my show. Then I hired a bodyguard and not let them in. Once I moved 2 tribunes of a theater space for audience to face each other. Once I made an epitaph full of names of people exes. Once I made a work about me running to the exhibition where I showed the work. Once, starting with the first person, I made the audience of my performance applaud each time a new person would enter the space. Once I published a plan with the instruction of how to break into the museum where my exhibition was. Once I asked friends all over the world to spray the word AWAP, all writers are bastards, on a wall in their city. Once in Bulgaria, I closed a small street for a whole week, announcing the construction of a giant tunnel. Once I spent my summer calling 700 former students of the Art Academy and asked them what they were doing professionally. Once I removed a museum entrance door and you could then access part of the exhibition space 24 hours each day. Thank you. It's very successful, this talk. We're getting applaud constantly. Once I remove all books from the museum bookshop and replace them with my book. Once I inspired hundreds of people who came to see my exhibition to lie down on the floor and gaze at the ceiling. And that's it.
And in this very moment, also the scan finished.
Oh, perfect
Like,
timing. We
what a
tried this.
performance.
We tried for weeks.
For the first time it worked out. Oh, lovely. Look. That's not-
Oh wow. It's beautiful. You can then come and watch it.
Lovely. I'm just going to save it.
It's like an X-ray scan, but healthier. So yes, this is, I always like to explain my work through narrative, and of course each of these works are complex construction and took a long time to realize, but I like this idea of eventually getting older and watching as to what I've done as an artist, not only through a conceptual theoretical approach, but through a narrative one. So that's one of the reasons I created this book. And
earlier we were talking about your narrative and your very strong architectonic approach as well.
Yes, I was always interested in architecture, but more as a mean of creating spaces, of how these spaces could be organized and how the body and the community live in spaces. This was always something that it fascinated me, and you also have a strong relation through architecture.
Yeah, that's exactly when we were talking about it. It directly popped up to me. that the research trip we did was basically dealing with spaces of community and how individualization juxtaposed this or like made a break in it. So basically we were together with Robert Marti and Rosa Sturm, we came to Styria. I grew up in the countryside. I don't know, you grew up in Florence?
No, in Massa Carrara.
So
It's also a small town.
small. Yeah, and for me, the rural place or like the non-urban place or the infrastructures of these are quite architectonically interesting me. And so I got to know that there were houses. And maybe do you have your chalk drawer with you?
Yeah.
And I would really kindly ask you to draw a house.
Draw a house.
Yeah, to draw a refrigeration community. How you would in a house in the countryside. Most of them have 3 rooms.
Okay.
One room to like prepare the things you're freezing, one room to pre-cool things, and one room to like freeze it, minus 17 degrees.
Okay.
How would you arrange this place maybe? And also to have it as a place of community, because like in the 50s they started building them with the first aggregates of I think different the refrigeration technology just came to place to make it usable for civil use and for a broader use to preserve your meat mostly. So they built together very archetype houses to do this.
Okay.
Not insulation.
Tell me again, the tree is pre-cooling, freezing, and
preparing the stuff
and
you're
preparing.
freezing. And thinking of it as a place of community as well.
To put a community inside a freezing place, that's already so.
To preserve the community.
It's like WIEN. How would this is not being rehearsed, so maybe you want to explain more of your project. Let's try to doodle it.
So basically what we did was going around in the camera. We got some feedback. Place it this direction.
Which direction?
Better now? Yeah. So
You have to speak if I draw.
yeah, no. And you have to ask me questions if you don't understand it. Okay?
Yes. Okay. So it's for sure. So it's a place divided in 3. That's for sure.
Yeah, most of them. And one additional room that is needed there is a room for the aggregate.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe let's make a floor plan first, from top.
Okay.
So it's
Okay. You tell me what to draw.
rectangle.
Okay.
Does it work? Yeah. So it's a rectangle space.
You're gonna see it backwards. Done.
Make a door to enter. And I would say this would be the place to start and process the food you're refrigerating.
Okay.
Like the first room. Maybe do a bench where you can like
Sit.
sit, not a table, sorry.
A table.
A table for working.
So these table things are discussed.
And you should make a place for the aggregate itself.
Okay. So we put one here and one here.
Two aggregates.
Yeah,
Yeah, they mostly have two.
I knew it.
Then the pre-cooling, and you have to be like, they're thick doors.
And it's another here, right?
Yeah, exactly, like the freezing room. That's actually. And then you have little shelves in the freezing room where you can put the. Also, does it look like this?
It looks like a basketball field.
And like that's the pre-cooling room, right?
This one.
No, that's the working room. Then
Yeah.
that's the pre-cooling room,
Yeah.
and that's the freezing room, right?
Okay. Does it have windows?
No, not at all.
Not at all. It cannot
Like-
take light or.
No, actually, it's very good to make photos, to swap films,
Okay.
develop films. No, but yeah, in the freezing room you have the shelves actually.
The shelves.
Yeah, that you do. Maybe just make some errors to put it in the next room.
Like here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can explain.
And then maybe write freezing community on top, so people understand. And
But this I have to write it backwards.
backwards. Once you wrote freezing community backwards.
Yeah. 2E.
Double E, yeah. Yeah, so we were, yeah, my interest started with this as a vanishing place, like in the 70s, as it got more and more affordable to have individualized ways of refrigeration. These things were starting to abandon,
Mm-hmm.
and like a ratio of 1 to 10, where like one community is still intact and one community is still working and being active, and 10 being abandoned. And so they're all over the countryside. There are houses that are basically abandoned and not existing anymore. Same with the community actually. So the community itself is also not anymore existing. So this marks a major shift in rural communities. So yeah, the decline of the farmership, decline of also communally used spaces, etc. And maybe this also refers to the because these places are mostly centered in the center of the village, on the main square one.
Yeah.
So you would go there and meet and chat there and interact with each other, though it's cold. And like one old man told us there was like when they initially could you pass me also the coffee?
Yes.
Thanks. When they started building it, it was like really an effort to a financial effort to build it, because they would use half of a year's wage to build these, like to invest in the setup of these places. So it was a huge dedication to the community, if you think about it.
Okay. But if I understand, no, we're. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Check. Check.
It seems to me that we both have a fascination for space and for architecture and for communities, but coming from a totally different approach. Yours seems much more connected to a form of how would I define it? More like archaeological, theoretical scan of a territory, of a space. You said it is connected to the fact that you were born in a rural countryside. Things. So this fascination came from where? Where would you take this fascination that you have, or this interest in digging inside almost an archaeological architect approach?
Yeah, I would say first of all from
growing up there.
Growing up there and like having this reality in mind, and like taking certain aspects or maybe rooms or architectures and contextualizing them in the nowadays logic.
Okay.
So basically bringing the refrigeration community or freezing communities back into and reflecting on them in our contemporary approach, first of all. And one thing is that I studied history, and I had a very initial interest in history in general.
History. Right, we spoke about this.
So
this would be my other question, which you already answered a bit. If it's this fascination that brought you inside into an artistical field, so you decide to apply this fascination that you had inside the art practice, or the other way around, that you were studying art and then you find your interest developing from already an artistical standpoint.
I think the last one would be, and also like my family is like they're farmers, and like my grandparents are farmers, and I got to know the like conjuncting these two things together, like an artistic vision or an artistic practice and this background. I wanted to ask you initially what your grandma is doing.
What my grandma?
What's her
she's
profession?
in heaven, if there is a heaven. If not, she's just buried under the...
No, but,
I never met my grandmother,
You
actually,
never
but she was a card reader, and she was how you say it? How you call it? She was an important figure in my hometown in the 30s, and all the city was going to her because she was reading the hand and the card for the people. So she made money. Again.
You have to press until there's a green light.
Is it because it touched her?
I don't know.
It's not working, I think.
You can swap it. You can.
Yeah, no, she was, I don't know how you call it, a cartomante. What is cartomante?
Card reader.
A card reader, a hand fortune teller, and the whole community of my city. This is the story that they told to me. Went to her. Even the police was trying to solve cases by going to her because she was so good at it. And but that's the story that I know from my family. That she was the most famous fortune teller in the city, and many of the things that she predicted became true. Also, my family, she predicted so much stuff that became real.
You know her, Pablo?
If I don't know her, I don't think that she knows her. But you never know it, but no. But also in my case, the background of where I grew up and the family structure are an important infrastructure of how I came to be like I am. I think also artistically. I grew up in Carrara, which is an artistical town. I grew up with a father that was into art. My mother, I didn't know her since later on, but she was a traveler and she was a person working a lot with collectives and things. And I think in a bit, if I make a bit of a self-analyze, all these things are embedded in the DNA of the family, if that's even possible.
We were just joking before that we should make a psychoanalysis session here, like having a couch here and reflecting.
Do you
on
do
it.
psychoanalysis therapy?
No, not yet.
Who of you does it? Raise the hand who went to psychology. Okay, 2, 3,
yeah.
almost 4, 5, everybody. That's the nice thing in Austria because of the heritage, maybe.
Yeah.
Psychoanalysis is really, in Italy it's a bit more of a rare thing. Not rare, but it's not so many people do this as much as in Vienna. Here I feel that everybody has been to a psychotherapy session.
We should talk more, make a mental health focus. These next sessions here.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
If you come here, we can psychoanalyze it.
No, but actually going back to Carrara, where also this is a marble stone that you brought here, and was the first object, obviously, being displayed in here. So I think also the archaeological approach that both of us are using, and me basically on the this narrative level of archaeology. Archaeology is a major influence for me. So the conjunction between psychoanalysis and archaeology, the subconscious, like the digging and going through it and creating narratives for a society is a very important practice in my project.
I would say, to simplify things in a very radical way, that you are the analyzer of the infrastructure of an environment, architectonic or social, and I am the empowerer, the one that in my work at least I try to push the limitation that are embedded not only in our surroundings but also in ourselves or in the structure that the jurisdiction or the means of doing the right things are okay. And in my work, I always try to create a form of collectivity that empowers the possibility to go over your own shadow. So it's also psychological, as a psychological aspect, to enact instead of being passive, to take over a space, even if the space is not usually used. If it's cross a limitation or a rule or a law that makes us create limitation on ourselves. And for example, I use museum or institution a lot as a metaphor for that, because they represent the perfect synthesis of this kind of don't touch, don't do, we cannot do this. No, we create our own limitation inside space, like institution, and often I work in these spaces because it's the perfect ground to try to break it apart, to cross the line, to challenge the institution itself as a metaphor of society or the way we live together. And so I think that we are interested in topics that are very similar from two different different approaches.
Yeah, and also like these museums, I was thinking of it when working, like I used to work as an educator, art educator in museum.
Which museum?
Back then it was at the gallery of the Academy of Fine Arts.
Okay.
And we had a collaboration with the Gallery, and so we had, like, there was the Rax Media Collective exhibition, and there was displayed a picture from the, I think, 11th century, which was the oldest part of the collection, or the oldest object of the collection. And it just struck me that you know, these museums or galleries are places to preserve and keep history, and that a society takes so much effort to basically preserve a thing for 1,000 years or more, and takes huge efforts to do so. So they build houses around it, they build a climate around it that it stays preserved. And yeah,
as an Italian, I can only see it in a radical way. We live, and some of the guests here are Italians. We live in a society that has become the ratio 99:1 preservation in spite of creation. So it's Italy represents this cultural heritage that has become his own limitation by itself, because we preserve, we restaurate, we basically put glasses over the glasses. Now and we are not able anymore to invent the future or to invent the and leave the contemporary, because we are too busy trying to preserve what we had heritage. Like if everything that was culturally valid has already been lived, and we become an open air museum basically, and it's a bit connected to. I finished the drawing because I think that now I will intervene with and I imagine this space that has a real function become a place of sports.
Yeah, people were, when we were there, they also suggested to make a museum out of these.
And what do you think? What do you think about that?
Difficult, or
yeah.
Like, I'm really a fan of the vanishing. On the other hand, I did some preservation actions. Like we made photos of it, we made 3D scans of it in order to preserve it. But on the other hand, like they should just vanish.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. How architecture vanish by letting just rotten on itself. And then in Vienna we have good example like the tower built in the Second World War, the flag towers, as a form of heritage of a given historical moment that cannot be destroyed. I think it fits very good. They became monuments to failure in a way. Even they are trying to cover it up and restructure it.
And didn't they try also to bond it?
Yeah.
Or like
they tried
to smash it.
August and yeah.
What will we do? Like we were asked to leave something here. What should we leave here apart from the freezing community?
Yeah. What should we leave?
I'm going to leave some.
You have an idea for it. Okay.
No, like maybe we should start keep on doodling, and together with the.
For sure. I will do it until the end. Well, we cannot ask for questions because we cannot hear them. You can draw question on a piece of paper.
Or on the glass.
No, but what else can we speak about it? Give us a time structure, Pablo. How long we are open? Okay, we're gonna stay here all day. No, I'm also not really.
Yeah. Maybe we've come to an end.
Maybe, you know what, we're gonna invite one at a time somebody of you that can come here with us and make us a question, and then we answer it for everybody. And that's where the proactive idea completely fails. Beatrice, vieni a farci una domanda. Dai, ce la vuoi fare? We have a guest, this is Beatrice, friend. Ciao bella.
Ciao. Ah,
You're joining
posso
us.
entrare veramente salvo.
So,
We have real question. How are you, first of all?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
So how did you meet each other? What is the? Have you ever worked together?
No, we just Pablo put us together. I think randomly, or maybe no. Maybe he knew that we had things in common. Probably yes. I guess this is the.
I asked to swap the schedule and be on the same date with you, but not on purpose because of your practice. It just fitted my schedule better. So.
Okay, so that's the
Yeah,
pure
because it
of
fits
truth.
really well the combination of
Yeah.
where
So
you've been.
and then we met by chance on a train.
Oh wow.
And that's why at the beginning we put the train sound, because that's where we met without never having really spoke to each other. Or did we? No, I don't think so. Maybe
We
at
met on the
openings,
birthday.
yeah, right.
Have you ever done projects on trains? By the way.
Projects on trains, I have to go through my memory. Probably
just-
artworks made in trains. I have, at least in my head. Like there is a beautiful work with Leopold Kessler, that he was smuggling a package of cigarettes from Hungary to Vienna by simply taping them out of the train, the package, and then collecting them when the train arrives to the station in Vienna. Or another work where he basically transferred, I think, 10,000 mosquitoes from a wagon in, I think was also somewhere in the east, to Vienna. So it was a whole compartment isolated full with zanzare mosquitoes.
To get rid of them from one
To
place,
bring them
to
one.
another.
Basically, it's a transfer of
Something very annoying.
yeah, from one. So yeah, no, sometimes because I think I curated years ago a project about traveling, and now these works are coming back to my mind.
But you also did that project of following the sun.
Ah, yeah, that
Across,
was a traveling.
no?
Yes, I made 10,000 kilometers together with Pablo.
Okay.
We basically chase in a winter. We chase the sun for the whole duration of the exhibition. So the exhibition started with only in winter in a gallery in Vienna with only a giant map of Europe, and was a collaboration with the ZAMK, with the Zentrale für Meteorologie of Austria. And every day they gave me the movement, how to travel, to be constantly in the sun. So during winter.
And you managed.
And we made 1 month. Always we went up basically all Europe, 10,000 kilometers. Every day they would say, tomorrow you have to be in Paris. After tomorrow, yeah. And then every day we would call and tell us where to move. And then every day I was communicating to the gallery, and he was the one drawing. So it was actually the end result was a giant map of Europe drawn, but not by me, but the galleries with the information that I was giving him through this. And we came back, me and Pablo, we were brown. It was February. And the finissage, we come back with the car totally brown. Yeah, that was a traveling project,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's one of the ones.
Yes, it's one of the ones.
Yeah.
And actually, it's still now talking about making art as an experience that is both personally and fun. And this is, together with Pablo, one of the strongest memory when I think of a project that I really enjoyed and took a lot of energy to do.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you are having constant access to a form of energy, and in exchange of another energy, which is the one to drive every day, and so it's like a switch. And yeah, and this
But
was-
also the idea of light as non-sleep, because it's like a moment when it's not the night, it's the day, you know, that you are constantly exposed to.
yeah,
At
it's-
part of the day
yes.
when you have to be active,
Yeah.
basically. So
Yeah,
it is
and
a
we-
source of light, of energy, but also.
Exactly. And we were, as Italian, we are also a bit following the stereotype that we like to be in the sun, or that we cannot keep the bad weather.
And also, like thinking of light in this, like Occidental, the creation of light in romantic paintings, for example, like
Yeah.
this light atmospheres are super
Yeah.
influential.
Of course, and then of course you experience light also in all different degrees of the parallels. And the more north you go, the light changes, and it was a very challenging project, but beautiful. And then we made a book together. I made a book together with the ZAM. They gave me all the original maps of the movement of the clouds. And I have a book that is basically every day of the travel, the movement of the clouds, and we moving around it. So it was.
But when you were thinking about this, were you kind of like missing the sun in Vienna? Like, was there any sort of like reflection on the
No,
here
it
and now?
started, me and Pablo, I think we were in Ljubljana, drinking a coffee and saying, we have to be in the sun.
Exactly, that's
So
what
it
I thought.
came really from a very instant. Then I was invited to do a show, and I had this thing, why not do an exhibition where, we don't hang nothing, we just experience something. And this was a long time ago, it was more than 10 years ago. But this idea of living art as an experience that you contribute both on yourself and in the community that you bring together has always been something for me extremely interesting. To be the maker of an experience that I don't only do on myself, or I don't only put on other people, but we collectively experience, has been at the end is the practice that I'm mostly interested. I use drawings as a starter point, like a switch, to create and communicate it. What is the shift the perception of a situation, and then we try to live it together. It doesn't matter if it's a collective coming together of Italians, or if it's reforming the role of the museum guards, that for 5 months they completely shift their instruction to the people, or if it's flyers that make people dance in the exhibition, or sleep over the museum, or march. It's more a proposal. It's not a fixed instruction you have to do. This is a proposal that allows us to justify the possibility of enlarging our normal space of interaction.
I just got a question concerning because you really intervene into the institution, in the social structure of the institution and on the logics of it. And this is quite temporary that you do it, so it has a beginning and an end maybe, but which traces does these interventions leave? When you think of it, that as the security guards in museums are standing there, must not talk, must not sit down, must walk around, must not talk to people, and then being like 2 months, 3 months, like intensively interacting maybe and changing.
Okay.
What traces do these things leave in that?
This is a very, it's a question very archaeological, how can it be traced back to something that happened? And it's a good question. I think that in this I am became pretty comfortable in the idea that the traces are only kept in the memory of the people that participate. So the traces are in the experience, in the memory, and in the story that these people tell to other people, or both the visitor in this case and the museum guards. They, for the first time, the museum guard working there for 10 years brought their family to visit the museum. And this becomes the memory of it. It's not an artifact. Sometimes it is, but most of the time I'm confident that the result can only perceive in the moment that it exists, which makes it close to our existence, I think.
But did one quit the job, for example, because they got annoyed of being silent?
No, on the opposite. They wanted to quit the job after this experience, because going.
That's what I want.
I think one person or two said, okay. Of course, I brought them to a place that gave them freedom and to go back into. But maybe was the right thing to do, to go back to a place where you are back into a certain limitation.
Yeah, because I feel like this can have an impact on the, expands the kind of like scope or tasks that they have in their job description, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like changing a little bit their approach maybe to labor and to what they do, and to somehow add other duties to what they already perform as guards, and how this might, I don't know, change the the way they experience the institution itself, and how.
But what about you? What do you, are you interested in leaving traces of your production? Or it's is the analysis of it already, and information that you share already enough?
I'm not there yet, I must say. Like, no, I would say right now in this phase, I'm just trying to reflect a lot, and then come to a point where this maybe leads to an interaction. But I'm really interested in also this approach of ephemeral interventions into institutions itself, and how they can, this has very concrete effects on the means of these institutions, and that's very, very inspiring to see how just like light-handed this goes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's light-handed, but it's
It seems so, at least.
Well, you know, again, this is something that anyway, I don't know if people are still listening to about, but you know, we're talking about us when we define ourselves as artists, and we produce objects, we produce artifacts, we produce. There is a way to watch all this that we're doing and thinking, okay, is it more important to add something in a place that it's directly connected with the fact that I'm an artist and I have to produce something, or it's also interested in the idea that there is nothing left there beside the possibility to shake it, even for a moment, a community, an idea, a person, a job, in this case, somebody that fires himself because that's it. And you know, I experience what does it mean to work in a different way, to live in a different, is 10 times more powerful, at least for me, than you know, having to be watched as the creator of an artifact that will survive me.
Yeah.
Then I understand from an artistical point of view, if you're, you know, the idea of being remembered, the idea of the monument, the idea of the artifact that lives forever, outlives you actually. It's interesting for many artists and respect for that kind of behavior. To me, it's more, as an artistical wish is the one that I know that at a certain point I will watch, and I know that what I did was useful for a community, for a person that moved, that touched, that and the work, what you told me before, exists all the time as long as this story has been told. You know, this experience has been told. So the work is not that in the fact that there is no garden anymore in the museum, because these stories still, or the you know, many things that I do have this ability of being told very easily, like I read this book now. So the story is still, the work is still living, it's just that you cannot touch it. But telling a story and an experience, it's also what eventually artists are trying to do. I think is to touch and to make reflect and to open up and to be happy or be sad or be touched or be. Yeah, that was a bit an emotional talk, but it's.
Maybe we should invite someone. I can slowly leave you.
We were saying that everybody should come inside, right?
Yeah, and now we make a picture. Everybody come inside, and we make a picture all together. If it's okay for you, yeah, shall we do it?
Just stay here.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
But we cannot be on this side.
Yeah, we can.
We can.
Oh Dio, mi ero senza subito. Yeah?
Let's hope the structure does not collapse.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
I mean, talking about structures.
Hola Aldo, hola. Hello.
Hola.
Come stai?
Non c'è male.
Ah, che lindo qua dentro, wow. making a picture.
This the borders to you.
Yeah, it's fine. We do just a picture.
Wow.
Yes, mir auch gut abgebrochen.
You can watch it online then. Shall I take this away? Give me the cup of coffee.
No,
Tea.
Serena deve entrare. Non può stare fuori.
Ciao Serena, come stai?
Darauf hat es auch schon so geknackt.
Deswegen tue ich den jetzt mal weg.
Golden.
Komm, Serena, komm. Serena, komm inside.
Does the structure support us?
Ah, che calduccio che c'è qui.
No, dovete entrare, vieni, fare...
Bene,
It's the freezing community.
ma dai, ciao, ci sono.
Ma dai, che fatica,
Che fatica.
Aspetta, dai, a questo punto.
Falla una a te Pablo da...
Zack. And this was the last time.
This is the last time. The idea is to break this cabin.
Esatto.
Yeah, we were talking about throwing the stone through the window, maybe. It's the last intervention. Last
Yes, because it's our is the last one, no? Or there are others?
There's one more.
Quindi stasera...
Allora, sì.
fammi dare un bacio a
Sì.
Serena. Ciao Serena. Bentornata.
Ancora per poco.